Thank you, Dean. I appreciate Rotary moving the schedule around a little bit. I know this is the medical month, but Dr. Drake is, in fact, an ophthalmologist, so we're okay. Dr. Drake became Ohio State's 15th president in June of 2014, coming to the university after most recently having been chancellor of the University of California at Irvine. He carries prominent roles in many academic and non-academic associations, including serving as chair of the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities, the American Talent Initiative, the University Innovation Alliance, and the National Collegiate Athletic Association, and he's on the board of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Museum. Ohio State's Time and Change Strategic Plan, launched in August 2017, identifies 5 broad areas of focus: teaching and learning, access, affordability, and excellence, research and creative expression, academic health care, and operational excellence and resource stewardship. President Drake has been especially innovative in support of the access, affordability, and excellence section. That's a phrase that has special resonance for the regional campuses. Just 2 examples are the President's Affordability Grant Program, which provides financial assistance to students from middle and lower income families, and the Buckeye Opportunity Program, which closes the gap in financial aid to cover the cost of tuition and fees for qualifying Ohio students. And President Drake is spearheading a nationally unique program at Ohio State aimed at further enhancing the quality of teaching and learning. I anticipate President Drake will provide some details of these and other programs, all intended to continue to strengthen and elevate Ohio State as the nation's premier land-grant university. I know Rotary members will always provide Dr. Drake with a warm Rotary welcome, but I suspect there may be a little more enthusiasm based on what happened on Saturday. Dr. Drake?
Thank you, Dr. Rose. Thank you all very much. Very, very good to be here. You know, I did happen, I don't know if any of you watched the game on Saturday. I happened to do that. And I was also at the Maryland game the week before, which was an interesting and different experience. W equals W, so we take W. But, you know, it's funny how this all goes and how little things make such a difference. And we happen to be sitting at the Maryland game toward the end zone in which the overtime was played. So they started off right there. And so I remember the 4th and 1 in the overtime play that we ran. We didn't have great confidence in our kicker, so instead of the field goal, which is the prescribed normal play, we had a passing play on 4th and 1 that was really kind of picked up, not quite shoe top, but reached and picked up with 2 hands, kind of catching it in a way that it wasn't necessarily the case that it was going to be caught. I mean, it was kind of got the ball and got a first down, and so it was that close. And then when Maryland got the ball back, I remember that 3 of our defenders covered 2 of their receivers, which is bad math, but the quarterback missed the open receiver and on the 2-point conversion, which would have won the game for them. And I'm saying that, and then we had a convincing victory on Saturday, including the video game block punt. I'd say that was a wonderful play. And I say that because it's so close. You know, the difference between things that are tremendous celebrations and disappointment are so close. And we have to remember that everything that we do matters. Every step of preparation that we take matters someplace. And one or another thing in February might be the inch or the a half foot that you need sometime in November to continue the season going forward, so that we are feeling great and making jokes rather than the people from the state up north feeling great and making jokes. And it really can be just that much. And it's a good focus for us a good way to remember how important it is to focus every day. What I want to talk about today a little bit is some of the things that we're doing broadly in the university. Oh, and by the way, I want to make sure that you continue with your firm rooting for the next game, and then as it should be 2 more games after that. So we have three to go, and we're all keyed up and ready to go. Also, I guess I want to say another word about football that's not in my prepared remarks, which is that it's been a challenging season, and we're just really proud of the way the team has come together. the coaches, the head coach Urban has worked really hard this year and has really pulled them together in a way that lets them be performing at their very, very best. And I just make sure we give a shout out to Urban and to all the coaches and the staff that's continued to have the team moving forward. It's a big change. As you know, we had a 4-year starter with JT Barrett, a certain kind of team that we were running that way, and now we had to shift to a different kind of team. And a real anchor of the team was Nick Bosa, and Nick, helped on plays when you didn't notice that he was helping, and then helped on plays when you did. And there's only one player out of the 45 or so, but he was really among the most outstanding collegiate players any place in the country. And so that meant that we had extra challenges there that kept us going. So we're really pleased to get to this point in the season and see that the focus and the never giving up has brought us here. So congratulations to the coach and to our entire group. That uses up my time, but I'm really happy to be here and to have a chance to spend some time on the Marion Campus again. And I'm here every year or so, roughly, and I try to make sure to make an annual visit, and time's not always exactly the same, but it's great that I was able to be here a few years ago when we were just about to open, or across the street from our campus, we were just about to open some residential opportunities for students that live closer to campus. Great to see that up and running. And then here to cut the ribbon about 15 months ago on the new laboratory buildings, and to see those up and running, and now today to see some of the renovation that followed that, to have the campus continue to expand forward. And noting that we have a founder of the campus here with us, it's great to look back on this past half century and see all the incredible things that have happened, and hard to imagine having more of an impact on the community. And so I just want to thank you for all that you've done for us. So a couple things at Marion that I want to focus on. First is that total enrollment is up. That's great, more students than last year. First year retention rate is up. That's a really, really important thing. Those students who come in, it's one thing to start, but it's another thing to continue going on. That's really terrific. And these things matter to our community and to the quality of education. We mentioned now 9 baccalaureate degrees available, so continuing to offer more and more opportunities, and a really wonderful relationship with our co-located campus as well. We're co-located, but sometimes we weren't working as partners as effectively as we might, and it's great to see that almost a turnaround, really, to say that we're looking at the future together and wondering how we can do more and more to support each other, rather than just supporting by sharing resources or sharing staff on some things, but actually having programs that support each other, and we appreciate that very much. One of the things that's most important for us as the Ohio State University in 2018 is we're rolling up to 2020, which will be our sesquicentennial. This will be our 150th year. And when we think about our mission and what we're doing 150 years after 1870, it really is tied back to the original land grant founding mission, which is to create an opportunity for the normal people of the region to have their sons and daughters educated in ways to elevate the quality of life in the region and around the world, to do things at the campus that are really for the region and for the state, and to do things on the campus through research that really help the state and the nation far beyond our shores. And so those are very important things that we care a lot about. This is facilitated by the quality of our faculty. I'm very pleased with the quality of our faculty and the national and international recognition that they're getting. Our wonderful students who come from all over the world. It's a great thing. They're from all over Ohio, but also all over the United States and all over the world. And then the staff that we have. We have staff members who are with us for 10, 20, 30, 40. I was congratulating a person recently who was leaving us after 54 years. Those people are really the backbone of the institutions. The students come and go after a bit. Faculty maybe are there a little bit longer, but there's staff people there that are really the backbone of the institution year in and year out, and it's really an important thing. We, a year ago, as Dean Rose was mentioning, a year ago we announced our new strategic plan. We began working on it for about 2.5 years ago. I won't go into detail, but it was I don't want to say it's in the wrong way. I've worked on strategic plans and a couple of opportunities to do this in the past. And I will say we've been very successful, very pleased that the plans have been successful. This one we started really from square one, trying to think about ways that we could help our university make progress relative to other similar universities. We not only wanted to do the best we could do, but we wanted to do relatively better. We wanted to kind of move up in our place among the leading research universities in the country. And so we put together a plan to help us do that. And the 5 pillars of that plan were really a year of work to say, gee, what are the best opportunities that we have to move forward? And I'm going to focus on a couple of those now just to let you know what our thinking is and how it's working. One is that we found that our students were graduating with too much debt. Too many students were graduating with debt. And they had more debt than many of our competitor institutions did. In fact, we were doing 2 things. We found that we had more students graduating with debt, and the level of debt of those students was rising. And at the same time that we were decreasing the number of low-income and minority students that we had on our campus. So we were taking fewer students from low-income families, but we would nevertheless end again with more students who were in debt at a greater degree. And that, I think, was something that we could do better. We could say, gosh, you can understand if everything stays the same and you're significantly increasing your low-income students who need more resources, well, that might, in fact, move your debt needle in one way because you have more students who need to have debt. But we were moving in opposite directions. We were having our students have more debt and more of them have debt while we were decreasing the number of the access for middle and lower income students. So we really designed programs, and let me say, just to be fair about that, if we compared ourselves with the leading public or private research universities in the country, those things were not true, that we were going in the wrong direction in both of those cases. And so it's hard to say, gosh, we're going to improve when we have our competitors moving in one direction and have us moving in the other direction. We needed to reverse that and kind of move ourselves more like others. So we worked on a couple of things. One is our broad access and making sure that we gave broad access to students, and I'll say a word about that. And another is to make sure that we worked on our affordability. There were things that we've done that really weren't helping our affordability. So among those things, this fall, we launched a group of programs. The President's Affordability Grants that you've heard about were grants that went out to many students. I'll say a word about that. This fall, we did something to our affordability program to change it even more, and we're calling that the Buckeye Opportunity Program. And it says that if you're a Pell-eligible student, how many people here know exactly what a Pell Grant is? So good, about half. So let me say Pell is a federal program that helps students from middle and lower income families. I say middle and lower because you're Pell eligible up to roughly the median income of the country. So roughly half of the families in the country would be eligible for Pell. And there are nuances and technicalities, but you can think of it as roughly half the country eligible for Pell. And what we are doing this year is that if you get a Pell Grant, federal grant, you also will likely get an OCOG grant, an Ohio State grant. Those 2 things come together. But those aren't enough to meet your cost of tuition. So we at the Ohio State University are adding university grants to close that tuition gap and make the tuition effectively 0. We're neutralizing tuition for students who are Pell eligible, students roughly from the lower half of the income distribution. So that's a tremendous thing you should applaud. No way where you do that. Some of you weren't applauding, so I'm going to repeat it again. And, it's a tremendous thing because we have, in Ohio, about 26% of our residents have a baccalaureate degree. That lags the United States by about a third, about 35, 36% of people in the country have baccalaureate degrees. We're not going to compete effectively over time if we continue to lag by that much. There are many great jobs that don't need a college degree, and I'm not saying that that's the case or that that's the only way to be successful. But many important jobs do require a college degree. And around the country and around the United States, 35, 36, 37% of the population has a baccalaureate degree. We in Ohio are about 26 to 27%. It's not enough to keep up with the technical jobs, data-rich jobs that are coming along. And so we want to make sure that we are more like the rest of the country in the numbers of people that we're educating. And if you look at our leading colleges and universities, and lots of data, the leading most competitive colleges and universities, those, and I say leading most competitive, those with the highest graduation rates, those colleges that if you enter as a freshman, you're most likely to graduate. There were a group of them. I isolated that group. We looked at this a couple of years ago, and of those, if you looked at the students who attend those colleges, about 85% came from the upper half of the income distribution, and about 15% came from the lower half of the income distribution. So your chance as a lower income family student to be able to go to a college where you had a great chance of graduating, if you just looked at the odds, it was about 5 to 1 against you. And that's just the case for, across the country. And we believe that we wanted to do what we can to make it that a bright, hardworking student, no matter what zip code she lives in or what her parents happen to do for a living, has a chance to use her mind to advance herself forward. And that there were significant financial barriers to that. And we wanted to help to neutralize that. Now, we're not the first to do this. If you are at an Ivy League or a private university, they provide grants to neutralize the cost of tuition for lower and middle income students, and they have for years. So that's been the case for them for years. In fact, it was more expensive if you were from a low income family, more expensive for you to attend Ohio State than to attend Harvard or to go to Duke or to Stanford by a lot. And so it really was a kind of a conundrum that you'd be an Ohio citizen, a hardworking family from Ohio, bright young student who would like to go to college, but there were financial barriers that made it that you couldn't do that at a time when the state needed to have more people graduating from college. Other states have closed this gap in different programs, but it wasn't the case in Ohio, so we worked to try to do that ourselves for our students, for Ohio students coming to Ohio State, and we were able to do that this year. We did that by administrative, cost savings. So we cut administrative costs. That led to the affordability grants that I mentioned before, and then we did some unique investing and made it that the first money that came from that investing went to help our students and their families. And so this year we were able to neutralize that tuition gap for Pell eligible students from the state of Ohio. Now, it still costs a lot to go to college. The tuition's about a third of the cost of going to college, so it doesn't mean that they get a free ride or a full ride. There's still a great deal of elbow grease and family savings and other things working that go into trying to cover the cost of going to college, borrowing, to cover the cost of going to college. But we at least can meet other states and the other leading universities in the country to say that if you're a student from the lower half of the income distribution, we're not going to have tuition be a barrier between you and being able to fulfill your human potential by being educated. So we're really pleased about that. And then something else we've done that I believe is unique and really special, and that will start in January, is we're extending that program to the regional campuses. And why that is unique and special is that our regional campuses are largely open admission. So I'm going to pick Harvard, just why not? And so Harvard, they can say, gosh, we're going to neutralize the cost of tuition for lower income, median and lower income students. But they also admit 5 or 6% of the students who apply, so they can control the size of that cohort, so they're not at risk to having a cohort be larger than they wish. They can just admit more or fewer of those students and control that. If we have a circumstance where we're largely open admission, where we can't control the number of those students that come, then that puts a kind of an infinite cost opportunity on us if we're going to then neutralize the tuition gap for all of them. So we're doing that at our regional campuses with this asterisk caveat. We're not doing that when they first start in August. We're doing that starting in the second semester, assuming the student has completed the first semester with a full course load and passing grades. So I think it's 12 credit hours that we're requiring and a 2.0 GPA. You don't have to knock it out of the park. You just have to be successful and take a full load, a few other things. And if that's the case, then starting your second semester, your tuition is neutralized. And it's neutralized all the way through your time at the regional campus, or if you do campus change and come to Columbus, it's neutralized all the way through. So it makes it actually less expensive to get a degree from the Ohio State University than it would be to go to a community college for 2 years, et cetera. So it really is a pathway going forward. And no one else that I know of has done that with admissions criteria like we have, and so we're really excited to be able to do it and hope that shines a bright light on the future for even more students. So we're really proud of that and really excited about that. We have, I'll just say, we're a big enterprise. We're a big enterprise. 100,000 people on our campus every day, 40,000 employees, 60,000 students, round figures. Our budget is about $7.4 billion a year, so it's a big budget. What we've done this last 4 years, though, that I'm really pleased about is that we have to redirected $100 million of our budget toward lower and middle income families in Ohio. We've affected 32,000 families thus far with these programs. It's helped to relieve that debt burden, to narrow the gap, narrow the pain and suffering part of affording a college education for 32,000 families, and we hope made their pathway forward a bit brighter, so we're very, very pleased about that. Another way I mentioned I won't quiz you on this, we call it the Buckeye Opportunity Program, which is tuition neutralization. Another we have is a tuition guarantee program. So the Buckeye Opportunity Program is if you're median income or below, half the families, okay? We have another program called a tuition guarantee program, which says that you see what your tuition is when you come in as a freshman. It's now about $10,750 for the year, something roughly that. And what we say is that that's your tuition when you're a freshman. We'll guarantee that for you for 4 years. So whatever you know that you're paying $5,400 a semester, it's $5,400 a semester for 8 semesters going forward. It's not going to change. I used to say it's like you go into a restaurant and the bowl of soup is $3.50, and you say, great, you order it, and then you check out and it's $4.25. You say, what happened? And that's the norm at college, but for us, we're going to say, you see what it is at the beginning, and that's what it is for your 4 years going through. And to sweeten that a little bit, we said it's going to be that way for tuition, but also for room and board. So you see what your room and board are, those are going to be frozen the same. So you see what the bill is, and you get that going forward until you graduate. And that affects families all across the income distribution. So it's helpful for families that don't maybe qualify for some of the assistance that families from the lower part of the income distribution get, but it lets families plan and budget and know it's going to be going forward. I have 2 sons who went to college and then went on to graduate school, and they were, I don't mean to be split, but they were on the thing that we call the Drake Scholarship, which is a real good one, actually. It's a tuition, room, board, pizza, trips home. So I would write checks, when it came time for their, every quarter I'd write a check, and every quarter it was larger. And I just knew it was going to be larger, and it wasn't hugely larger, but it was a few $100s more, and there was no chance of that not being the case. And what a drag, but it was just, great. So that's not the case for our Ohio families. They write a check, they can Xerox it and change the date, and it will be the same. That wouldn't work. Don't do that. I don't mean that. No, I was kidding. But it stays the same, which I think is much better for family planning, and that's for families, no matter what the income distribution is. A couple other things that we're doing to try to help. We have one more thing I would just tell you about that that's really important, that really helps a lot, that we did this last year to a much greater extent. We have things called completion grants. And these are for seniors who are not allowed to register for their last semester or two because of a financial hold on their records. And we found that last year we had 160 people who had a financial hold that was not going to allow them to register. And those 154 people, and all of their financial need was covered by $160,000. So roughly it was $1,000 each. And what we were seeing was somebody who was nearly graduating but was going to have to drop out because of several $100s or $1,000 of what they owed. Now we know that when they drop out to go on work or whatever, some of them come back and finish. But we know that about 3 times as many don't as if they would have, 3 times as many, the graduation rate is only 1/3 for those who drop out as those who would have stayed in the way going forward. And after all the time and effort it took, all the money borrowed, everything else to get to be a senior, to owe some number of $100 for whatever and not be able to graduate is a great loss for society and real burden for the student. So we gave these completion grants last year, and they dramatically improved the number of people who were able to stay longer and are moving toward graduation. So all things to try to make it that we can create opportunity for our students, nurture them when they're with us, and help them get out and join society, but become Rotarians, do the things that are important in having your life succeed. A couple other new things that we're doing that we're excited about. We want to be a digital flagship university, and we've have an arrangement with Apple. And so our freshmen and newly arriving transfer students this year all received iPad Pros. I saw someone one of our freshmen today who thanked me. Great. I have an iPad Pro in the car, so I carry one all the time. And so we gave out over 10,000 iPad Pros to freshmen and transfer students. They'll keep them for 4 years and then be able to use them for coursework. The student I saw today say takes all his notes on the iPad. They'll get books delivered to them from many courses. I teach a course. All of the material that my students need for my course is delivered on the iPad. So their textbooks and all for my course cost them $0 and 0 cents. They take notes on the pad, they write their papers on, they send them to me electronically. So I've been doing this for years now. It's a great thing, they love it. It's not perfect for every course, but for many. And we did the entering students this year. We'll do entering students next year, and then overall, so within 4 years, everybody on campus will have this, and we're really excited about that. We are pleased to be able to do that. We have a new program that we announced in August and really rolled out around the 1st of October called the Teaching Support Program, TSP. I'm very excited about the Teaching Support Program. I mentioned the financial barriers we've been trying to help neutralize for our students. We've worked hard on that. The Teaching Support Program is to really support our faculty in being the most modern and best and most effective teachers they can be. I have 5 things to say. I'll say really quickly a few of them. One is having a teaching support program doesn't mean the faculty aren't already outstanding. 2017, we were recognized for the first time by U.S. News as among the top 10 public universities in teaching, among the top 20 universities, public and private, in the country in our commitment to teaching. So we already have outstanding teaching, proud of that. But the concept is that maybe even if you're outstanding, you can even get better, or be better more uniformly. So we have a program we've offered to faculty, which is the largest of its kind that we've ever heard of, that helps faculty learn about their own teaching style through a self-assessment, and then go through some training modules, and then have the opportunity to meet with a teaching coach to help them. And we've provided this to faculty, as I said, about the beginning of October. By the end of October, 1,600 faculty had begun the self-assessment, 1,500 had completed it, and about 500 had begun or completed the second step, which is modules on modern teaching. And I'll learn in a few days how many completed that by the end of November. But this was about 1,700 faculty out of 4,000 that were available. And we're going to make it available to even more faculty as times roll on, but we plan on having this be a significant fraction of the faculty. I could talk for a week about the data that show that faculty who take a modest professional development course in teaching and then evaluate their results get dramatically better outcomes from their students right away. One tiny bit of data. There's a person who did a study on her own course and her own teaching from the University of North Carolina, did this 3, 4, 5 years ago, and she was a math teacher and at UNC, and she found that she had what was referred to in her paper as a DFW rate. And DFW means a grade of D or F or W, withdraw. It sounds like Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, but DFW rate. The DFW rate was between 25 and 30% in her calculus class at the beginning. Commonly true across colleges and universities. And what the DFW means, if you take calculus or math 1, you can't go on to the second course in the sequence if you have a D, an F, or a W. You have to get a passing grade to be able to move on. So 25, 30% of her students were in the class, boom, they weren't eligible to go on. She changed, I'm going to summarize this quickly, but she changed teaching methods and ways she was focused, and that rate went down to between 15 and 20%. So she had about a 40% decrease in the number of students who weren't able to succeed. If you make that a class of 100 students, it's a half dozen, 10 students who weren't succeeding in the past were now able to move on. And anytime we can help a student move on through a particular hurdle or get onto a second course in a sequence, that helps them, gives a better chance of graduating, a better chance of making something of their degree and all. And so we are working to try to use modern methods to help as many of our teachers as possible get moving forward. So that's really great. You know, 2 other things I want to mention. This is, I know it's Health Month, and so I will say that our medical center, our university is thriving in many ways. We've got our best graduation rate, our best retention rate. We're doing more research than we've done before, multiple things working really well, more applications than we've ever had. So many things working best fundraising year by far last year. So many things are working really well. Our medical center is also doing quite well, having far and away its best year ever last year. and then this year being ahead of budget and ahead of, and year-to-date being ahead of last year. And the number of patients that we've seen, the quality of the patient outcomes, the amount of research our faculty are doing, the number of people applying to our medical school, the GPAs and qualifying statistics for our medical school, the diversity of our medical school, all of those are at historic highs, and that's, we're really pleased to do that. So, not to say much about health or health sciences today, except to say that our medical school is really doing great. In fact, our hospital was rated 6th in the nation among public academic research hospitals in this last summer's polling. The School of North was one of the top 5. 3 at the University of California, San Diego, Los Angeles, and San Francisco were there. Pitt, that's a very good medical center, and then we were next. So we were ahead of University of Washington, University of Texas, University of Virginia, wonderful, decades-old, outstanding programs, and we were able to be ahead of them, which we're really, really proud of. One of the favorite things that I get to do in my job, I was asked that a little earlier, I get to meet wonderful people who are Buckeyes in different phases of their lives. Some of you here in the audience are alums and graduated 10 or 20 or more years ago than that. It's really a terrific thing. I was at the game over the weekend and got to meet some 8 and 10-year-olds who were budding Buckeyes, just looking forward to being able to be students. And then we have wonderful students who are here, and they're really the light of our lives and really show us what the future can hold. I have a couple actually to mention who happen to join us here today. So Molly Fender, you were introduced to earlier. A couple of words about Molly. She's a freshman studying pre-pharmacy. 5 years ago, she was living more than 7,000 miles away. How many people here have been to Africa? Just curious. And so, if you're in sub-Saharan Africa, I was in Rwanda about 18 months ago. It's a long way away, and it's a very different world. It's fascinating. And Molly was there growing up in a village just a few years ago. Her village is called Onai. It's a tiny village, and she lived there with her mother and 7 siblings till she was 13. Not speaking English, she was adopted by a family in Lewis Center. She attended Old Tangi Orange High School, and I said they didn't challenge her enough, obviously, because she graduated with a 4.0 GPA. That deserves a round of applause, by the way. And she's pursuing her dream of becoming a pharmacist to help Ugandans, I know by that, and others, gain better access to modern medicine, and exemplifies one of the very best qualities we have in our university community. So I'm happy to welcome Molly here. We also have Julio Romero, who attended Harding High School, and Julio is currently in his 3rd year at Ohio State Marion, on his way to an engineering degree. He's a pre-engineering student now, but he's also working at RobotWorks, which is pretty fascinating. And actually, there are a lot of the company does a lot of work in Central and Latin America, and so the fact that Julio is bilingual helps a lot with those kinds of projects. He's an active and engaged student also here on our campus. He does a lot to be engaged and lend a helping hand wherever he can, and he volunteers his time at Taft Elementary as a translator for the Christmas Clearinghouse and as a student leader on the Marion Campus. His kindness, tenacity, and generosity fueled his success. We appreciate that very, very much. We're really proud of all he's accomplished as a Buckeye and then also as a valued member of our community. And could Molly and Julio stand for another round of applause? Now, I realize that both of you are at least bilingual. That's 3 languages more than I speak. So good, good for you. And when we think about the land grant mission and why we were brought into being in 1870, it really was to be able to open opportunities for people to come to learn from us and then to go back into our community and make our communities better places. We try really hard to educate the whole person, but we also know, and this is a very important part, and you've all seen this in your jobs and your neighborhoods and your workplaces, is that as you work to bring people in and to help them move themselves forward, they also teach you a lot about yourself and the world, and it makes us all actively engaged. Having the Rotarians be so focused on service, you know the benefit of that service to the people who receive it, but also the great benefit that you receive in having the privilege of being able to serve others. It's a great thing. We care a lot about those things at our university. We really are proud to be a part of the land grant mission. We're proud of the Ohio State University to be recognized across the country as one of America's leading research university, and really, really happy to be able to bond with you here in Marion to help our mission come to its full realization. So let me say, I'd love to take questions. I'm really happy to be here with you all today, but thank you very much for your time and attention. Thank you. I'll call my wife and say, well, I got a standing ovation at the beginning, but then we went to a Rolling Stones concert once, Brenda and I did, about 3 or 4 years ago. And it was with lots of the fans at this Rolling Stones concert were much like the age of the Rolling Stones at the time, so really like people here in the audience. And that's a good thing, it's a good thing. And I was saying, gee, the crowd was loud, but there wasn't, the applause at the end was sort of muted. And they said, oh, that wasn't a good concert. I said, no, we were all worn out. This is what we could do. So it was a big night.
Dr. Ray, thanks for coming today. I have a question, but first let me say I think the affordable tuition that you're doing is going to be a great thing for our state, and any way that OSUM could help that, an expanded OSUM, I think would be great. But on a more controversial topic, would you support a expanded college football playoff? That it looks like one of the Power 5 conferences is going to get left out of this tournament. And can we eliminate the idea of the Rose Bowl and the Orange Bowl and just have the colleges host their own playoffs, and we don't need to cut in the bowl directors anymore, and keep that revenue for the actual universities and counties?
I'm sorry, my bling hit the microphone in the middle. I couldn't hear what you were saying there. Could you repeat the second part of the question? So a couple things just to say about first, Marion and affordability is something that means an awful lot to us. And so I just want to say that unlike maybe things might have been in years past, when we created the President's Affordability Scholarship Program, that was extended to the regional campuses from the very beginning. So really, not that it's separate, but Columbus money, we saved money administratively in Columbus, and we sent that money to our regional campuses where it can help families and students in need. We're very proud about that. The Teaching and Learning Program, which has a financial opportunity for faculty to raise their base salary by 1.5%. I didn't mention that, but just going through the program, which takes about 20 hours or less, gives you a 1.5% base salary increase, benefited base salary increase year after year. So it's quite cost effective, and we wanted to raise salaries anyway, but that extends to the regional campuses as well. The Tuition Guarantee Program extends to regional campuses. The Buckeye Opportunity Program, unprecedented for an open admissions campus, extends to the regional campuses. So we're really one university with different campuses, so these programs are meant to elevate people wherever they happen to be starting. We have a great graduation in the SHU in May, and in fact, starting 2 years ago, we began having 2 student speakers, one who began his or her career at Columbus, and then one who started at community campus or one of our regional campuses and did a campus change or transfer. So we really do celebrate that we're all graduating together no matter where your first year happened or your second year happened to be. And that's a very, very important part of who we are as a land grant. It's particularly important, let me just say for those who are thinking, as we become more popular, I mentioned we have more applications than ever last year, and we're ahead of that pace this year. We don't have any more spots, and so we become necessarily more selective that way. And as we become more selective and there are fewer opportunities in Columbus, it's critical for us to maintain access in other parts of our university so that people who are hardworking and maybe weren't quite ready to leave home or weren't quite ready to have the Columbus campus still have a pathway through so that we're all graduating there together. So we hope that's something very important to us. The playoffs, I mentioned at the beginning, it's a fascinating thing. So our goal is to broadly in our athletics program, best collegiate athletic program in the world. And I say that because of the number of programs we have, 36, and the number of those programs that compete for conference or national championships, which is virtually all of them over a short period of time, and easily half of them in a given year are competitive, and that's our goal, is to be competitive in the conference first. In football, there are two conferences really. There's the Big Ten, that's our conference, and then there's the national conference of everybody who's competing for the playoffs. And we want to be competitive in that national conference, so we're a part of the discussion at the end of the year. At this part of the year, the discussion only now includes probably 6 teams. And 6, maybe 7 under some circumstances, but it really does boil down from a few hundred at the beginning who have potentially the chance to just a handful. And it would be easier, last year we would have been in the playoffs, you know, we were the first group out. This year we need to win, have a good victory on Saturday, and then have a few other things go our way to get there. We think there's a great likelihood that's going to work, knock on wood. But you know, we understand things have to break that way. We think we're playing as well as anybody in the country now. We'd be happy to play anyone. I was talking with Archie about this over the weekend, and I said, well, you know, we have different opportunities going forward, and he says, and I said, boy, you know, we didn't have a good time last time we played Clemson, you know, in the playoffs. He said, yeah, I wish we want another shot at it, you know, and so we'd love to play Clemson again, or love to play Alabama as we did 4 years ago when they were so powerful, and we were the 4 seeds, and so that's where we are now. Will it expand to 8? Or, you know, we'll have to see. There'll be active talk about that, particularly depending on what happens this weekend. It's a new system and better than the old system was, but I agree that's an active area of discussion. Yes.
In your work, how much time do you get to spend one-on-one or with small groups of undergraduates?
So the question was, how much time, yeah, mute the microphone, but how much time do I spend one-on-one or small groups of undergraduates? So I teach a freshman seminar in the spring semester. And so I, for that reason, sit with 18 of them every week, for sure, and we have a great time there. We have dinners. These are not one-on-one. These are, you know, smaller groups. We have dinners at our home each year, and we probably have half a dozen, maybe 8, that are with undergraduates. And the reason for that, I say that number, is that we have a couple, 2, maybe 3 that are random undergraduates. Sort of, somebody happens to be in front of us in the line at the grocery store or whatever, and we get a name and, you know, just something like that. And so we invite groups of them together, and that's fun. Those maybe 20, 25 at a time, 30 at a time will come over. And then we tend to have athletic teams that are not on TV. So we have the women's rowing team and the pistol team and the tennis team and the golf team, synchronized swimming. Lots of teams are at our home every year, and so we get to actually sit around, and then we leave an empty seat at each table with about 4 or 5 of them, and then we move around from table to table. You hear them laughing and having a great time when my wife is at the table, then they're glum when I'm there. So we meet them that way. And then I meet with student leader groups on a routine basis. That probably happens a couple of dozen times a year, that one or another group of students will come to the office for some issue. And I meet with the elected student leaders. I see 20, 25 times a year, so I see them a lot. So any given day of any given week, I'm in touch with one or another group of undergraduates. With my desk, if you come to, or my office, the people who are at the desk in the front office are undergraduates who we employ, so I see them lots. So I find that last night I had dinner with a sorority where I go to the house, and that was great. And actually, I do just this. I eat with them, and then we chat a bit and they ask questions. So that's a real important part of the job for me, is to be able to be in touch with undergraduates. If you said, gee, it's time for you to, you know, hang up the spurs, and what are you going to do when you go to, what are you going to do? What I would do is teach undergraduates. I continue doing that. My course, it's my 9th year teaching this course, and it's always the top priority on my, I have to go to board meetings or, you know, trustees meetings, and so I put those on. I have to promise, but I put those on there. But other than that, the thing that I do, that I cancel everything I can cancel for, is to be able to teach my students. It's great. I learn so much from them and have such a good time doing it.